Good afternoon. Welcome to the Board of Commissioners Regular Workshop meeting. Today is Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. It is 4 p.m. City Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Brooks,
Here.
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Here.
Commissioner Tagliarini,
Here.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Here.
Commissioner Gavalle,
Here.
all are present.
Prior to public comment, I would like to request that we, if no one has any objection, move 8A up to before 6. And the city manager would like to add a few items to the agenda.
Two items. One is a special meeting for the last week in February for the city manager search. Renee's firm has requested that, or Renee has requested it herself. And the second item is the discussion about food trucks at Archibald Park. Our ordinance says no mobile vending. State statute says we cannot limit food trucks, so we need to talk through that. And those are the two items.
So we'll add those as E and F. Or I guess, sorry, F and G. Public comment. Public participation is encouraged. If you are addressing the commission, step to the podium and state your name and address for the record and the organization or group you represent. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes and do not include any topic on the agenda. Public comment on agenda items will be allowed when they come up. If you would like someone at the city to follow up on a comment or question made at the meeting, you may fill out a comment card with the contact information and give it to the city manager. Comment cards are available at the back table in the commission chambers. Completing a comment card is not mandatory. Do we have any public comment?
Good afternoon, how are you? I'm Stephanie Berry. I own a business down in Johns Pass, Woody's Water Sports. I'm speaking on behalf of the newly created Johns Pass Committee. I'm the treasurer for the committee, and we just wanted to put something into your idea for when you're planning your budget in March for the following year. So I'm just going to read to you kind of what we all put together. So thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I am not here to request any funding, but to request partnership. We respectfully ask that the city considering adding a line item in the next year's budget similar in structure to how the parking garage initiative was planned, not as an expenditure, but as a framework that allows us to formally collaborate with the city to design, execute, and scale profitability community events. Our goal is simple: to help the city of Madeira Beach create revenue, generating events that attract more visitors, support local businesses, and build long-term economic strength. Events such as Final Friday, Seafood Fest, and future concepts we would like to develop together to have potential to do more than just break even. With strategic planning, sponsorship development, marketing alignment, and professional execution, we believe these events can generate a surplus of revenue. We're not asking the city for money, we're just asking the city to allow us to help create new money. Anything above break even would be intentionally structured with a significant portion, ideally as much as possible placed into a designated fund earmarked for specifically of Johns Pass beautification, strategic advertising and promotion, infrastructure enhancements that directly support tourism and local businesses. And this is just about sustainability. This is about creating a repeatable model. This is about transferring events from expenses into economic engines. Madeira Beach is uniquely positioned in Johns Pass as an asset that deserves continued reinvestment. Rather relying solely on tax revenue, we can build a self-supporting system where successful events improvements that make future events and more successful. We believe public-private collaboration is the path forward. Allow us to help you increase attendance, increase sponsorship, participation, increase tourism impact, increase measurable revenue that is not a cost proposal, it is a revenue strategy. We are ready to work alongside the city to structure transparently, responsibly, and alignment with your long-term vision. Thank you for your time and your continued service to our community.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment?
Hi, my name is Chris DiGiovanni, and I live at 601 South Bay Shore. Been a resident for almost 19 years. I haven't been able to attend the recent meetings, but it's come to my attention that there's been some discussion about the use of Kitty Stewart Park. And I just want to state that I was here long before Caddy's was, and I'm very, very upset at the slightest possibility that that land might be appropriated or used for anything other than its original intent, which is a public park. I'm hoping that nothing will come of that, and that as soon as construction on the nearby businesses is completed, that the park will return. I remember when there were several parking spaces, a little fountain to wash yourself off after being on the beach, and a little pavilion where you could have a picnic. I see this as an opportunity for a little slice of serenity inserted along what's becoming a very, very busy Gulf Boulevard. It also opens opportunities for the city. The park could be furnished with native plants. Perhaps one of the local garden societies might want to take over or help in the care. It could also serve as kind of a living, learning project for the local school as far as recognizing local flora and fauna. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment? With no additional public comment, we will move on to proclamations. We have the proclamation for National 211 Day, which is today, February 11th, 2026. We have two representatives here. I will read the proclamation. Whereas 211 is a free, confidential, 3-digit helpline that connects residents and visitors to essential health and human services, including crisis and emergency counseling, disaster assistance, food, healthcare and insurance assistance, stable housing and utility payment assistance, employment services, veteran services, and child care and family supports. And whereas the City of Madeira Beach 211 services are provided by First Contact, ensuring individuals and families have access to compassionate, accurate, and timely information and referrals when they need help most. And whereas 211 provides expert caring assistance by listening to callers, identifying underlying needs, and connecting people with appropriate community resources that help stabilize households and improve quality of life. And whereas in 2025, 211 responded to more than 62,000 calls, texts, emails, and online requests from Pinellas County residents seeking assistance with critical needs. And whereas 211 addresses the root causes of challenges facing individuals and families and identifying, presenting issues, and connecting them to a wide range of available resources, not solely the service that prompted the initial contact. And whereas 211 maintains a finger on the pulse of community needs by collecting and analyzing health and human services data, which is used by local governments, emergency managers, and community planners to inform decision-making and improve services. And whereas 211 strengthens the efficiency and effectiveness of the local social services ecosystem by ensuring individuals are connected to the right services at the right time, reducing duplication and barriers to care. Now, therefore, I, Anne Marie Brooks, Mayor of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, do hereby proclaim February the 11th, 2026 as National 211 Day in the City of Madeira Beach and encourage all residents to recognize the vital role 211 plays in supporting health, safety, and well-being of our community. I would like to go down, and I'm going to present this. We'll stand here and take a picture with the commission. And for the record, if no one knows what 211 is, look it up. It's a really fantastic organization. I did not know anything about it until I was at a mayor's meeting and we received a presentation, and the services that are provided are quite spectacular. I have a flyer that I will share with the commission at the end of tonight's meeting.
What are you doing? Thank you. Thank you. You're still in JW office, right? You're still in that building? JW? Across the street. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for your work. Darn it, I forgot to suck it in. Who did? I forgot to suck in my belly.
Next on the agenda is presentations. We have Teresa here with Duke Energy to give us a presentation on undergrounding.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I see some old friends and I see some new friends, I hope. I put the girl in a line truck and I can do just fine, but put me in front of a computer and I'm a little stumped here. Today we have another big milestone. It's Thomas Edison's birthday. And what I did is what Michelin is to fine dining, the Edison Electrical Institute is for all things electrical. They are a third-party, independent, highly respected organization, and they make recommendations. They do testing, endless testing on all kinds of devices, including underground facilities. And this is basically their stance on underground. It's costly. It doesn't do that well with water intrusion as of yet, but I'm a hopeful person. Technology gets better every single day. You can look these up. These studies are available online, but the Edison Electrical Institute is the be-all, end-all on all things electrical. I can tell you what I've experienced. I am a 26-year veteran of Florida Power, Progress Energy, and Duke Energy. I retired right before the big storm, and then this all happened. I worked for FEMA during the 3 storms, and then my Duke management called me back because I was one that built these beaches and said, would you come back to get the beaches online? So I have a 2-year contract. I hope I can survive that long, but we're on to it right now. Other than the cost, which is it's expensive, the water intrusion remains a problem. I know I had secondary cables conducting all over the place following the water intrusion. Line department, when in doubt, go ask the linemen. I walked on the dock the other day and they said, we're still pulling up cable that's tracking that's full of water. And then the other issue in the type of storm we had was FEMA response. And I understand completely FEMA's #1 goal is to clear Gulf Boulevard for emergency vehicles. Well, in that clearing, they tore up everything that feeds underground. All the pull boxes, all the transformers, all the sub-ups. So that had to all be rebuilt. And even now with the Gulf Boulevard projects I have, we're still finding sand in lines. It's just the nature of that storm. Probably the most difficult thing we have with undergrounding is easements. I think there was a term during the nuclear time that said NIMBY, not in my backyard. Nobody wants to grant an easement, business or residential. Nobody wants a 4x6 green box on a pedestal in their front yard. Nobody wants a pull box in their front yard, but these things are necessary in order to run underground. There's no way around that, and it connects up somewhere. Even if it's onto the transmission system, it still connects overhead somewhere. And the last item is streetlights. If you want to put your streetlight conduit underground, that incurs even more cost. And we all know how important streetlights are to keeping our neighborhoods safe. I look back on my career, I struggled with this one because I thought, what was the name of that storm? And I think I have PSTD about it. Sandy was my first storm. I went to Miami. That was not a water storm. That was a windstorm. Michael, I went to Mexico Beach, therein again. Not a lot of water, a lot of wind. And then Charlie in Lake Wales. It was supposed to hit us head on, and it was supposed to hit Orlando head on, and it ended up in Lake Wales, so go figure. Lake Wales was devastated. It was flat. So that's just my experience. I can't tell you how many storms I've worked because then you know how old I am. But that is just basically the nuances of underground. It's not an easy project. It's not an easy thing. So does anybody have any questions for me in regards to underground?
Do we have access? I don't see it, a link in my agenda to that. Did you get it printed?
It's on Google. I'm on Google. And you just, you look up Edison Electrical Institute Underground, and you can go deeper into all these files, and you can find their research documents.
Thank you.
I'd just like to tell you that when you win an award from the Edison Institute, it's a really big deal. And Duke won for storm restoration this year from the Edison Electrical Institute. So we're very proud of that.
Got it. Thank you.
So, Teresa,
Yes, sir.
so from your presentation, I'm taking that you don't recommend undergrounding for the barrier islands? Is that what I
No,
should be taking
because
from this?
there's a difference in Gulf Boulevard and residential, just because of the nature of the difference of, when I work storms with like guys from Nova Scotia, they go, why did you ever let people put stuff in their back lot line? You know, that's not what we want to do anymore. It's just tricky right now, but I'm sort of an optimist. I mean, every year there's brand new technology, new cabling, new everything, new self-healing feeders, new circuitry, you know, all kinds of good things are coming on. So I think if you can accrue the money and have patience, I think that would be a prudent thing to do, because who knows, some 21-year-old from MIT could develop it tonight, and we'd hear about it tomorrow.
I'm a huge proponent to have the state work towards resiliency grants. I mean, after Hurricane Helene, we were without power for over a week.
Oh, I understand.
And, you know, except for the connections, I would think that the cables themselves, if they're underwater, I mean, they run cables underneath the Atlantic Ocean.
Those are different kinds of cables, though.
Well, I'm just,
They're actually built to be subaqueous cables.
I don't know what the cost difference is. It sounds like that's really the main thing.
Well, we have one at Johns Pass, right, Megan? That I'm having hives about, because when you start dredging, you better not hit that cable. I'm just saying, I'm being
Yeah.
facetious, but
Yeah.
that's a very expensive cable.
I'm just watching the transformers overhead just corrode, and I'm really looking for some sort of guidance on what we should be pushing for, because I would love to see everything underground. We walk through communities just north of us, and they're all underground, and I don't know how long they lost their power, but I'd like someone to be able to answer some of those questions. So, but I appreciate the presentation.
Well, you're certainly welcome. I mean, I totally understand. I lived in Pinellas County all my life, and I didn't know, most of my life, I didn't know if my home was operational or not, because I was in a line truck. But I know that this was a doozy. It took down transmission lines. And you don't just put up a transmission tower in.
No, of course.
So this is the worst I've seen.
Well, thank you for your
But
experience.
if I can
Yeah.
provide you any research, please feel to reach out to me, and I'll help you.
That's wonderful. I have your card now. Watch out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, Teresa.
You're welcome.
It's been a while since I'd seen you. So as Vice Mayor Kerr stated, we all love to see the power lines being underground, but we also see a lot of unsightly power lines. We see power poles that are kind of tilted here and there. They create also dangerous situations. And we also understand that it's not just the power lines, it's also cable lines that could belong to a variety of operations. So what sort of a maintenance responsibility does Duke Energy have to fix the on-site scenes?
Well, if you can report it to us, we'll go out and do an investigate, but I know that we have a program that checks all our poles. I think it's every 7 years. There's a company called Osmos that goes out there and tests their stability. They can be slightly listed, but they're still firmly in the ground.
Well, yeah, I mean, mostly I was concerned about the unsightly.
Well, the thing that you see the most is the joint users. The big, gigantic black cables that have boxes and pulleys on them, those belong to Frontier, WOW, and Verizon.
Okay.
And they have joint use contracts with Duke. Now, that's another challenge is because they're telecommunications, they're very protected, and getting them to go underground and abandon with us is also quite the feat.
Reddington Shores, for instance, they're undergrounded.
That is correct.
So what sort of an issue have you experienced, let's say, in that town, just as an example?
Now, I didn't serve Indian Shores in my former job, and I just came back a few months ago, but I was with Melissa the other day, and I said, refresh my memory, because I'd heard this all my career at Duke. Do you remember there was I don't know if he was a fire chief or a police chief that started that project? And before they even broke ground, he had acquired every easement. He walked from business to business to business. So they started with all easements done.
Well, yeah, easements is one thing, legality of placing the wires underground or on people's properties. But as far as the undergrounding not being viable or having issues during storms, that's really what I would like to sort of see if you have any knowledge of what sort of an issue they had.
At Indian Shores?
Yes, Indian Shore, any city that's within.
I bet I could ask that mayor, and I could guess their public works director and get back to you. I've only been working on ongoing projects because I didn't work the storm. I was working for FEMA.
I'm just curious what sort of statistics we had with undergrounding as far as negative concerns.
Please don't misunderstand me. I don't want to be misconstrued. I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think with emerging technology, there's going to be some really benefits coming up very quickly, especially with, cell phones. Because if you see all these towers now. We try to get them to attach on our street light poles so they're not unseemly. But basically, they have the wherewithal to put those towers, or I call them a tower, but they're the big gigantic poles. They can put them wherever they want. I say, come on, attach to my street light pole. It'll be a win-win for both of us.
Why not? Thank you.
You're very welcome. But I'll keep looking because I'm sure that people there's more entities than us that have had to do studies on this past 3 storms. There's got to be some documentation somewhere that we could pull up.
Yeah, definitely the storms did a lot of damage, to the coastal communities. Thank you very much for coming out today. I just want to say congratulations also on the award.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's for the whole company. It's not,
Yes.
I wasn't working that storm, so I can't take the award. I was in the FEMA trailer. Can I be with y'all next time? I don't want to go back there.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had a mobile command here.
Yes.
I know
we
you did. It was a Duke
It
mobile
was-
command.
Yes, it
Yeah,
was.
we
It was
did.
fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you for coming. And
Well,
I-
you're certainly welcome, and I don't want to be negative about underground. I'm just very hopeful for emerging technology. Because, who would have ever thought we'd have solar plants online? And we're building 12 new solar plants this year. I went downtown to the State of the Union yesterday to hear our corporate president, Harry Sedaris, and it was unbelievable. We replaced 2,000 transmission poles last year, and we have 271 in progress right now. That's huge. And we had less pole damage in Pinellas County for prior year because we have a lot of steel and concrete poles that have replaced the wooden poles. So thank you for your time. I truly appreciate it. We can talk offline.
Thank you.
I would
I'm
love
not a lineman.
love to, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Teresa. Next on the agenda, or I should ask, is there any public comment in regards to the presentation? Then next on the agenda is Public Works, 8A, Area 9 Roadway and Drainage Improvement Project Discussion.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I almost said good evening, but it's not 5 o'clock yet, so this is fantastic. So we are discussing Area 9. Area 9 is Bay Point Causeway, Bay Point Drive, a portion of Pruitt Drive, and Sunset Cove. And in your packet, you have the map which shows that area kind of outlined for you. So with this project, we've been discussing for quite some time about this is our first road project that we are going to elevate the roadway. And the reason for that being is from what we found in our watershed management plan. So I have Justin Keller with me today. He's from Advanced Engineering. Their firm completed the watershed management plan, and he's gonna kind of explain the difference between this road project and previous road projects, because as you see that this proposal is much higher than what we've seen in the past. And the major reason behind that is because of the elevation of the roadway.
How you doing? Justin Keller with Advanced Engineering. Spoken to the commission before, but we've had the opportunity to prepare the watershed management plan, which also brought into some discussion about using fill to elevate roadways, which we have been working with the city on, how to best utilize fill through private developments, through coordination with residents. And also to, while not specifically with Madeira Beach, we have healthy experience in roadway reconstruction and design. So I wanted to take this opportunity to first talk about, let's say, what we're thinking from a construction scope standpoint, and then also talk about some of the design elements that we have included within our proposal to provide a snapshot of some of the tasks that are, let's say, atypical to how the city has rehabbed roadways in the past. So regarding the actual scope for construction, right now, Bay Point is a very low roadway. The elevations range from about elevation 2.5 to about 4. To the, let's say, to the south or to the east, I would say it is lower, and to the west it is higher. There are multiple homes that were impacted by the storms, and that are in varying phases of being rebuilt, elevated, or rehabbed. So naturally, we want to try to tackle the roadway elevation challenge out there. Right now, we are openly saying that 6 inches is the goal, and also the goal is to stay within the budget that has been identified. So what we're going to do is that early on, we have a preliminary engineering report. Again, this is one of the initial tasks that typically, really probably hasn't been warranted in future projects, in order to determine what's that sweet spot. As far as, is it 6 inches, is it 8 inches, is it 9? What can we accomplish? What are the corresponding costs? And then give that to the city to allow that to be a pivot point at the project to determine, okay, how far do we go? We need to replace the seawall on Bay Point Drive. Again, this project is somewhat unique to where you have roadway and seawall incorporated into the same scope of work. That is something to where if we are doing it, we would like to see what opportunities are there to elevate that seawall, to elevate that stretch of bayshore. Due to the fact that we need to adhere, the best we can to that construction budget that's been outlined. It is possible that some areas of Pruitt and Sunset Cove, we may not be able to realize the full fill abilities that we can do. Our job is to give you everything we can from a fill standpoint within the budget, and then also give you enough data to where if you want to come back 10, 20, 30 years and elevate subsequently, whether that's because of cost or differing home elevations around there, that you would have that data to do that and essentially give you a foundation to build upon. So from a construction scope standpoint, we are on Bay Point Drive, both the Causeway section and the residential section, as well as on Pruitt and Sunset Cove, recognizing that we may not be able to hit all of these areas with that full fill goal that we've established early on. So regarding, not only is construction a bit different when we start looking at elevated roadways, there are also some additional design steps that need to be taken. Conventionally, if I'm doing a roadway reconstruction project, I'm stopping my survey, essentially the documentation of elevations, at the right-of-way. And I'm saying, okay, I'm not going to garages, we're just staying within our sandbox here. When you start to elevate, especially in low-lying areas, there may be a need to extend outside of those boundaries. So normally, if I'm doing curb and road work, I don't care what your garage is. I start to care now when I start using fill. So what that means is that our scope of survey expands to pretty much, it's gonna touch the homes, it's gonna touch the garage, because again, when we do this, we have to make sure that we maintain positive fall towards the road. And then also too, because we are now getting outside of our sandbox, right? That's private property. So there's gonna be resident coordination that is needed. If we determine that we can do the filling that we want to, and if the city approves of that, we still have another if, and that's if the residents will let us in order to maximize that ability. And that's a step that we will have to go through. We do have public meetings within our scope. We have renderings in order to, one of the concerns I understand we're probably gonna get is you're gonna dam up my property. I won't be able to drain. So having, kind of the old sentiment, a picture's worth 1,000 words, having that information to discuss with residents as needed is something that we think will be a powerful tool to help us accomplish some of the city's goals. And also with the watershed management plan identified some stormwater deficiencies in these areas. Historically, the scope of stormwater repair has been limited based upon what is there now and what can fit based upon available easements and based upon, a project budget. Now we have a watershed model that's already more or less been paid for, and we can start to kind of use that investment the city made in order to fine tune these areas and say, okay, well, what do we have to do to meet our level of service? We envision that we're going to be able to install a dedicated outfall. We have the area on the causeway that will require some additional permitting, but also we feel that this project will net greater stormwater benefits than, let's say, the city has sought to get in prior projects. Again, a lot of that is just luck of the draw because we do have a causeway and no one lives on the causeway. So we're not going in between two structures like a lot of times we have to in coastal areas. I talked about the new outfalls. Unfortunately, when you do start going into the waters of the state, you have the Army Corps that's going to be involved. You have SWIFMUD that's going to be involved, not only from a stormwater standpoint, but from an environmental standpoint. That triggers the need for habitat assessments, seagrass surveys, stuff like that. So it's important to have that information when you go to the permitted entities to make sure that you are demonstrating that the project has not resulted in adverse impacts, not only from a flooding standpoint, but also from an environmental standpoint. And then we mentioned the seawall design. Again, that would be done in conjunction with the roadway project. And then also the preliminary engineering report, which certainly, we will present to staff if we need to talk about it with the commission. That's something that could be beneficial, should the commission want to see me again. Don't know why you would, but I guess that's your cause. So yeah, that kind of summarizes some of the major differences. And since this is one of the first projects that the city is looking to strategically use fill, wanted to be here to explain kind of how I saw it happening and more or less answer any questions that the commission may have.
Do we have any public comment?
Chuck Dillon, 529 Lillian. One thing that I would ask definitely is, do they have the ability to oversee the project? Where it sounds like this is very similar to the Crystal Island project, and I don't know that any of these issues were really approached then, but I mean, it brings up a lot of very interesting questions. So as they had the ability to oversee the project once it was designed and engineered, and I know Megan can attest to this, if they have the testing people and people to be able to make sure it gets done. Thank you.
Do we have any additional public comment?
Hi, I'm Jim Caprero, 904 Bay Point Drive. We've been living here for 5 years. I'm glad you have a report there that shows that. The cost was how much on the estimate? What's the estimated cost?
For the design?
Yeah, 439, okay. I can tell you right now, there is a challenge that we're all facing. And the road is undrivable now in front of my house. You're coming multiple times per year, filling in ruts. There's potholes. We have people riding bikes and walking on those streets. Easily someone can break a leg. This is not only an issue related to stormwater, wastewater, but there's liability at stake. You have visitors in town, and you can watch the bikes go, and they don't know that there's potholes there. The potholes in front of my house have been fixed at least 3 times a year, maybe 4. It doesn't last. It's really something that needs to be addressed for the entire city. It's disgraceful. The road is disgraceful. If you haven't been down Bay Point Drive, you need to go there. And I don't know if anybody wants to walk with me, I'll walk with you. The Causeway Bridge has fallen apart. So again, we're not talking about doing something that's unnecessary, but I think it's something that I don't know what the option is. So to each of you, I'm saying, this is something we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment? Megan? I'd like to just start off, if you could, because I've had quite a bit of communication with the community on the condition of the road, and I know that the time for repair is going to be long for for the elevation. Could you speak to the mill and resurface that we are going to do so that the road is traversable?
Yes, so we do know that engineering services take anywhere from 3 to 5 years before you actually get a shovel in the ground and start construction. So we are looking to piggyback off of either a county contract, a local contract, or our next area project to mill and resurface Bay Point Causeway and Bay Point Drive, just in the interim to get us through until we can rebuild that roadway. And that will be 8 months-ish is what I plan for that.
Okay, so 8 months to pave the road, and I'm sure if there's any expedient way, that'll happen, but 8 months is a realistic time frame. Could be shorter, but that's really a realistic time.
Yes.
Thank you. I know that that'll be appreciated information. Commission, do you have any questions?
Can I ask, so this is something new for me. So you mentioned getting residents' approval. What do you need their approval to do? If you could be very specific for me so I can wrap my head around that.
So as Justin stated, this is a whole different road project. We're not just going in the right-of-way. If you go through Area 3, East
By right-of-way, you mean the
West
road
Parsley.
itself?
The right-of-way can range from 5 feet behind the curb to somewhere,
okay.
sometimes it's 15 feet behind the curb.
Okay.
Whereas in this road project, we're going to be going sometimes all the way up to the garages. So if you look at any of the driveways within this area, you can see that we're going to have to repave their driveways. We're going to have to pull up and regrade to ensure that they can drain properly to the new elevated roadway, because their driveway was built to the elevation the road is at currently.
And what's to prevent it from just going into into their garage.
To prevent the water from
Water
going
from
into the
I mean,
garage.
if you're raising up the driveway, why wouldn't, I'm just trying,
If, on Bay Point,
because I see, I'm not an engineer, obviously. I see the road going up and the water going into the house, so.
I would say 95% of the houses on Bay Point are elevated.
But the garage is still there.
On a lot of them, they're also elevated. So that's part of the design that we're gonna have to look
Yeah,
at
that's,
as
I just
well.
want to get my head around that, and when residents ask me,
Justin
Yeah,
are you going to flood my
I'll
house?
use the official hand motions. So generally speaking, you have a garage here and you have a road here. We are not looking to alter the relationship to where the road drains
Okay.
into the garage. That's a kiss of death. We're not doing that. But if it's like this and we want to elevate this much of the roadway, we soften that slope. And what we do is we soften the slope to where you still have a gradient downwards, but it's just not as steep.
Sure, okay.
And as you can go into somebody's property and reconstruct that driveway, and you imagine as you go up that driveway, you're getting more and more elevation. So if you go ahead and, the higher you can tie in, the greater the opportunity you have in order to maximize the elevation within the road.
Got it.
One thing that I can promise this project will not do is the road will be lower than the garages, come hell or high water. Megan will kill me if I don't do that.
Yeah.
So
That was probably a given. I just needed to make sure I
Yeah,
heard
no,
that out
no,
loud.
that's-
I mean, even if it is their garage, I mean, that's what I have. I have an elevated house, but I would not want the road draining into my garage.
no,
Every time there's bad storms.
And I mean, really, I think you organically brought up one of the reasons why the team saw it beneficial to get a rendering in order to make sure that we are kind of clearly depicting that although we do use the term like elevated roadways and going and scary concepts of the government going into your yard and digging up stuff, we want to make sure that everybody recognizes that the relationship between your property and the road will remain the same. It just will not be as severe.
That's what I wanted to say with confidence to net residents, that your garage will not be lower than the road.
Yes, and then one thing also too, because I failed to hit on it, there is the Resilient Florida program that is through the DEP that provides funding 50% on the dollar for construction projects that are resilient. This is a project that will increase the city resilience, and we do intend to see if there's an opportunity to leverage the money that's already been budgeted or reduce the amount. We'll see how the city wants to go, but to apply for matching funds through the grant program. And that will occur in September of this year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Don't sit down yet.
Yeah, okay, all right.
So you said your public goal right now is 6 inches. It may increase to 8 inches or 9 inches of elevation, but you've also said that is 5% of the homes are what is restricting that number, that elevation.
Oh, yeah, so always, we have to recognize that if I sit up here and I say the road will be lower than your garage, that means that the lowest home on the block will be the limiting factor to what we can do.
Right.
Yeah, and so, well, I certainly don't want to make light of this, the reconstruction going on from a roadway elevation standpoint does present the city with an opportunity to possibly maximize or work with the resident to see, hey, if you want to go up a little bit more, maybe we could go up a little bit more. We are working with property owners through the permitting process to support whatever elevation goals that they have, knowing that they will directly benefit this project.
Okay. Not this community, but community north of us, the garage level is, I'm going to call it even with the roadway. The roadway, from the roadway towards the property, it goes down, and from the garage it creates what I'll call a channel.
Yeah, like a V in the driveway.
Closer to the road.
Mm-hmm.
And that all drains into a big grate to get to the storm water. I'd like to see the roads elevated as much as possible, and to be restricted on elevation by just a few homes, even the new homes, I've said publicly here, it breaks my heart to see some of these new homes being constructed without the garages being elevated. You know,
Especially since your code does support it.
yeah. So, but unless it's in the design, it's you know, it's being improved. So with that being said, the road's elevation will always be restricted by that one home that's on the roadway. You know, why do the roads have to be the conduit for 100% of the drainage? For those isolated cases, can't we deliver a solution? In my mind, I have some solutions, but why can't we deliver a solution to be able to get to that 9-inch elevation increase?
So certainly, you know, one of the main points we have to make sure is that, you know, we have to thread the needle between maximizing the elevation goal and staying within the budget that's been allowed, you know, kind of allotted for us, from a construction standpoint. If we're able to leverage these funds for grant funds, then heck yeah, let's do what we can to go bigger. When you are talking about using fill in a community, that is a choice that is being made for the long term, which means that there are, you know, that kind of my goal at least would be that this won't be the first project like this that we elevate roadways. That means that the first one is always going to be heavily scrutinized. And so I agree. I grew up in Shore Acres, a low-lying area in Pinellas County. I know roadways. Actually, my old boss used to live on a roadway that was elevated, and what they did in order to maximize the roadway elevation, they put the point of collection in the parkway, you know, which is a lot of times to the resident, that's their yard. It's really public lands, but, you know, we understand that. So I would like to avoid that if possible because of the optics. But if it turns out that there's an opportunity and it's within budget, and we clearly communicate that to the city, and we clearly communicate that to the commission, and that's the direction that you want to go, then I certainly don't mean this to mean that we are saying heck no to that right now. I just don't know how much more we're going to gain from a roadway standpoint if we put that point of collection in the yards.
Okay, we're just setting precedents though, and
Yeah.
It bothers me that 5% or less of the community would restrict the elevation of that roadway so that everyone else has free and clear access on a sunny day when it floods.
You are getting to a more impactful discussion, I think, about how to work your codes with that sentiment.
Yeah, I'd just like to see I feel like I've been preaching that for 4 years and no one wants to hear
So
my thoughts on that.
you will be,
There's no solution.
Yeah.
It's always the road is the conduit. It comes from the home into the road, down into the stormwater. For those isolated instances, I mean, so many of these homes are right on the water. You could change some of the grading and take it out to seawall. Regardless, I'm not saying, I'm not the engineer. I'm just saying I can't believe there's not some solutions to do it. So I'm not going to belabor, but thank you.
No,
I support what you're doing 100%. I've listened to many of your talks and I support it. Trying to get our roadways as elevated as possible, or we're going to be written off one day from the federal government saying, oh, they're underwater.
I mean, that's what we're trying to get out ahead of.
Thank you.
Commissioners?
So, Area 9, that's definitely a velocity zone right there in that area. Is that why that area was chosen first for the city as far as moving forward?
So the difference with Bay Point is that, well, it was one of the next areas per our CIP, but also with the amount of homes that are already elevated and with what we had found in our watershed management plan, that we could go 6 inches without negatively impacting what was currently there. So that was kind of the reason for initiating this and having the discussions. And then after Helene, of course, made, some
Oh, definitely.
serious impacts on things.
I'm looking forward to it. And also you said we're going to have town hall meetings also
We will.
to discuss this as well, right?
Yes, I believe there's 2.
Yeah.
2? Okay,
Yes.
great. All right, thank you.
And there's also going to be some organic check-ins on adjacent topics through some other activities that we're working on with the city. So this is, kind of how I see it is there's going to be these conceptual discussions going on with this real-world application of what we're talking about. And it will be an opportunity to kind of sync the logic with the product.
Perfect.
Justin, do you all provide construction administration for your projects?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so once the project is finished, you come up with an as-built and certify that the project was built according to the plans?
Yeah, so from a logistical standpoint, we actually require that the contractor hire the surveyor, provide that, but we certainly do review it and issue it as a record drawing to confirm that it is in compliance with the plans and specifications. Okay. And for this project, for the permitting, we're gonna have to do that as well, because we're gonna have to close out the permits also.
Okay. Do you think the existing road base may be lime rock versus crushed concrete?
I did do borings, but I don't remember.
Okay,
We'll have to review.
borings is what we want to do. As we look at low-lying roadways, admittedly, I tend to go towards crushed concrete. It's a bit more resilient versus like a lime rock. Lime rock,
I wouldn't suggest that. I'm just saying
Okay.
existing base.
Okay.
Is the existing base lime rock? I think based on
I would-
history, it probably is.
It's probably a
Yeah.
mixture.
and I've seen in
Clay.
beach communities that there's a sand shell mixture that have been used sometimes as well. I have learned never guess on geotech. So I'm a bit timid to do that, but I wouldn't be, looking at some of the failures that are out there, it would not be crazy to suggest that the base failure is associated with a product that does not respond well to wet, dry cycles.
So if that's the case, would you recommend to remove the lime rock and fill it with fill and then 8 inches of crushed concrete?
Yeah, we would, I think what we would do is that part of what we need to look at is how we blend importing new material and stabilizing what's there. And that's one thing through the PER process and the design process we're gonna have to vet. Obviously, the more clean material we truck in, the better, but that also correlates to cost. So it's like, is there a way for us to, again, kind of repurpose what's there through using stabilizing agents and stabilizing like you would on like a major highway? Is it worthwhile to have that equipment brought in here? Is it cost effective? Those are some of the big questions that I think we need to answer to the city.
Okay. You had alluded that some of the roadways are 2.5 to 4 feet elevation difference from point A to point B.
Yes, so this road actually, it kind of surprised me to where when you look at a profile, because we plotted a profile just using a digital elevation model, you have 18 inches of, about 18 inches of gradient change from one side to the other, which is really kind of unique for a coastal built-out island.
To Vice Mayor Kerr's concern, I also would like to suggest to keep a certain minimum elevation for the roadways.
Yeah.
Not, for instance, if the roadway is 2.5, don't say, all right, let this be 3, and, because 3 certainly won't cut it, and it'd be too low. So we don't want to spend money right now and then, have issues later down the road. So I also would like to recommend that. Now, a couple of other questions, forgive me for elaborating too much. Are you also looking at existing infrastructure out there, such as sewer lines, water lines, to be sure that they are in good shape and they don't need to be replaced while you're building the roads?
First call we make is to Pinellas County Utilities and figure out what's going on there. And Because even if everything's perfect out there, we still have to elevate the isolation valves for the water system and the sanitary sewer manholes. So once we get the okay to proceed, that's literally one of the first calls we're going to make and to do. So.
I would highly recommend to camera the sewer lines. If they're VC pipes, it's basically no good. They need to be converted to PVC. And so I wouldn't necessarily depend on Pinellas County to say, yeah, we have good lines or we don't. I would truly want to request to TV, especially the sewer lines and possibly storm lines, just to have a good indication of what's failing and what's not.
Yeah, and I know Megan, through all of her roadway projects, I know you have a good relationship with the county in getting them to kind of dovetail these projects. Worst thing you want to do is pay a bunch of money to rebuild a road, and the utility company comes in behind you and digs up something. That's not a good look.
And we could possibly maybe put some sleeves across the roadways for possible utility extension. Would that?
I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming and doing the presentation. I know that there are a lot of residents who live in Area 9 who will be happy to hear the update, even though the time frame they're looking for that, and the paving, Megan, thank you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Board of Commissioners, Key to the City. And I believe this was a request by Commissioner Gouvet.
Good evening. Thank
evening.
you, Madam Mayor. Just walking around town and driving around town, I've lived in Madera Beach now for about maybe a little more than 22 years. And I have noticed that there are a lot of wonderful people out there that just give of their time and their talent and their treasure to better this town. So we had talked about coming up with ideas to recognize and encourage those folks and possibly even encourage more people to want to join in, because Madera Beach is home. We should, all of us, be a party to betterment of this town. So the idea was to come up with the key, at least one element would be key, and I know that there are other elements like coins and so forth and so on. But I specifically wanted to bring up the key to this town for trash pirates. I have been out there. I know all the board members have been helping Candy and her team to remove trash, cigarette butts from the beach, from the roadways, from all around town, and wanted to bring that attention to this board. Talking to our chief, he alluded that maybe we should expand that on the team that have created or a part of that trash pirate, and I think that's a good idea to bring the whole team. So I would love to suggest this board to approve my recommendation to give the first key of the city to the trash pirate team.
Do we have any public comment? Commissioners?
I think that's a great idea. I've been out there a couple of times with the trash pirates myself, and it's just a fantastic idea. And they are so great with our community. I believe after we disallowed cigarette smoking and vaping on our beaches, the cigarette butt litter, as you could say, it went down about 90%, but that's along with the trash pirates' help. That's fantastic for our sea turtles and also just for the overall welfare of our beaches. So yes, I would totally be in agreement with that whenever that comes around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners?
Candy and her team are self-driven. They're amazing. If anyone is due recognition in this city, it would be the trash pirates.
Awesome.
We owe a lot to the trash pirates. I think this is a perfect example of someone and people who go out of their way at they get nothing back for it, and it's definitely benefits the city. I would like to see if it could be worded, Candy, I'm sorry, I forget her last name, and the Trash Pirates. I think she organizes it, she's the director. What's her exact role with the Trash Pirates?
So she is one of the founding.
Yes.
There are two founding people for the Trash Pirates, Candy and Audrey.
Well, I'm certainly in favor of this, however we word it. Trash Pirates deserve a lot of credit.
I agree.
So where do we go from here?
We have to vote. Attorney Trask, we just have to workshop this. We don't have to take it to a Board of Commissioners meeting and vote, do we? If we workshop it, then we can present it.
You can put it on the agenda. What Oldsmar does is they put it on the consent agenda for authorization to issue the key to the city, and then even at the same meeting or the next meeting, actually have everybody there to actually receive the key to the city. So that would be my suggestion. Put it on the consent agenda for approval, and then provide a ceremony at that meeting or some other meeting.
Or presentation.
Yeah.
Is it your intent to present more than one key, or one key? You know, you have two people, Audrey and
That's a good
Candy.
question. It's the organization.
Or
I
is it
mean,
just-
if we're giving it to the organization, it's one thing. If we're giving it to individuals, so I don't think that there is an office for the Trash Pirates. So. It's on the beach.
Could it be displayed at City Hall somewhere? Obviously, they're not going to carry it around, but if it was, I don't know if it's got a plaque that has the key. I'm just envisioning where would they put it? Who would keep it?
I wouldn't object to having more than one key. We can look into, see who the main operators are, and maybe do more keys. Because again, this is just extending our appreciation to the residents that are going over and above, just living here.
Possibly, and I'm just brainstorming here. I've seen a plaque with a key, and there's multiple plates where you engrave the most recent recipient, and the first one could be Trash Pirates 2026, and a physical key to give to the current participants, something along, or maybe the founder, something along those lines. Then next time we have a key to the city, we just engrave the next plaque and give out more keys.
So this will not be the first key the city's ever given. The city has we actually have keys already here framed that were purchased years ago. So this is not the first key that the city has given out to someone. But, I mean, keeping a record of who's received the keys, I think is a fantastic idea.
Well, maybe it's time we do some research on that and get something organized to display possible to, I mean, it's a pretty big thing.
I think that's a great idea.
So do we need to reach out to Candy and ask her to possibly attend one of the meetings that we'll have to determine when we would present her or the team the key, and so they would need to know to be here.
You might be getting ahead of yourself a little bit.
Right.
until
Sounds like we have to put
it on the consent
the
agenda, and then create a date for that.
So it potentially could go on our next meeting agenda in March, in our voting meeting on the consent agenda, and the key could be presented that day ceremonially or at a later date. That's, it's going to be
Yeah.
on the consent agenda for the next meeting. So, city manager, chief, you could work on that with the commissioner since it's his nomination for what type of, and how to present it, whether we do it on the voting day or a different day.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll work
That
with
makes it easy.
Commissioner
We're all in
Hoosh.
agreement.
And just thinking out loud as well, in this city store, we have the Trash Pirates retail store in there as well. So if we only want to present one, we could kind of house it here with both of their names on on a plaque.
As an extra.
Yeah, sure.
And also the verbiage that goes along with the keys,
Mm.
because there would have to be engraving to,
To
Their
keep it,
names
to keep
and-
it simple, you might just want the one key to the trash pirates and let them jointly receive it, but that's just my,
thank you.
Do we have a clear direction on that, Chief?
Yes, ma'am, I'll work with Commissioner Hoosh.
Okay, just to make sure that we're not just leaving it open-ended. Next on the agenda is Office for Board of Commissioners at City Hall. And I believe this was brought up by Commissioner McGeehan.
Well, yes, this is basically a minor issue or something we had talked about. I was recently talking with the city manager. I believe that's not really a big necessity right now. We can float around like everyone else does. So we can work on that in the future.
So just along those lines, I was thinking, if there's nothing going on in here, couldn't theoretically a commissioner come up here with his assigned computer and do work from here?
Yeah, in our one-on-ones earlier, we discussed that, and if he wanted to, reach out to me or Megan Powers and see if the conference room was available or the chambers was available, then he could come in here and work.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm hoping for is to get more community involvement, one-on-ones here.
In office hours?
Office hours, yes. But get more community involvement and have them come up and talk and chat and, something like that. That's what my future vision is for that. So there we go.
Awesome. Next on the agenda is sanitation services discussion. Vice Mayor?
yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I asked this to be on the agenda with the recent discussions of Public Works and what it's used for and the trucks. And then it came to my attention that Treasure Island has recently transitioned. And I'm told, and I would ask that there's some research on that. I've tried to reach out, but I think city staff needs to. And there's significant savings that Treasure Island has been able to achieve. And the residents are also achieving savings. The businesses are receiving savings. So financially, it sounds like it's a good idea. Mr. Laughlin did a back of the napkin study basically and suggested that he thought, and don't take offense to that, that he thought that there would be some savings, but no formal bids were put out at the time, and I think that was maybe a year or two ago. But I think it could achieve a lot of different goals, and it used to be that we had the best sanitation staff ever. I mean, everybody loved it. You'd go away for a weekend and come back and forget to take your trash out and find out that they went in your backyard and emptied it. It was just, it was amazing. But that's all transitioned. We're using different types of trucks, less people on the road. So I think that advantage has disappeared. As far as personnel that are currently working in sanitation, I understand a lot of those people for Treasure Island transition to the company taking over the contract because you need drivers. I don't care who's driving the trucks or who's writing the paycheck. And as far as the equipment that they had invested in, the company purchased a lot of that. So it's not like someone's necessarily going to be out of a job. So I wanted to get the conversation started and ask if staff could research this so we could bring it back to a later workshop with more clear understanding of what our neighbors are doing up and down the barrier islands, and see how they feel about it. Best practices, basically.
Do we have any public comment? So I'll start. I feel like this is a solution that we are searching for a problem. I spoke to several different communities. I spoke to a number of citizens in Madeira Beach, and I just don't see it. Even looking at the numbers, I did a lot of digging. I sat with finance to talk numbers, and our sanitation department is profitable. It's self-funded. It is a enterprise fund. Our general fund does not fund any of our public works at all. And there's a couple different ways. They did do a study in 2023. And looking over those numbers, if we redid those numbers, the profit for outsourcing would be much less. So there's two ways you can outsource. You can either outsource it where the company that you hire takes over doing your trash service and they bill the resident directly, or you can outsource it where they bill us and then we bill the residents. Not a lot of savings in that. We're still having to carry the load, but regardless of which way you go, based on the conversations I've had, it comes down to quality of service. And there are a lot of things that our sanitation department does that we would not get if we were outsourcing, either way, either one of those ways. But if we were to outsource sanitation and hire ABC Trash Company to come in and do all the trash service, they would come in, do the services as needed, and bill the customer direct. We still need sanitation because they're not going to clean our parks. They're not going to sweep our beach. They're not going to take the trash cans out of Rock Park and pull them out to be dumped and then put them back. They're not going to clean the trash receptacles down in Johns Pass. And that's just a short list of things that are done that are side work, we'll call it. And I believe that is what sanitation calls it, is side work. So when I looked at the cost of what that would cost the city, so we get rid of we get rid of sanitation fund, but we still have to keep 2 staff members, 2 employees would have to stay on staff to do that side work. And that's being generous, right? 2 people, it's a lot of work. There are a lot of things to do. There are a lot of restrictions that come along with outsourcing your sanitation of what they require that's done. You can't just put your palm fronds out by the road. You have to bundle them. Not saying that people couldn't learn to do that. You don't get a dedicated day for lawn trash pickup. It's the same day as your garbage. You don't get go-backs if you forget to put your can out and you call Public Works and you say, oh, I forgot my can, and they say, okay, we'll be back out there tomorrow, we'll pick it up. That's not going to happen. That's the customer service side that we get to provide because we control the service. But going back to the money. So we have to keep the 2 people, and 30% of our Public Works director and 30% of her assistant's pay is paid out of that fund, out of our sanitation fund, out of that. So it's about $200,000 between those 2 30% salaries and the 2 salaries that would be required to keep 2 staff members to do all of that side work that we need done to keep our city as it's accustomed. And I don't believe anybody here is willing to give up the service of a clean beach, clean parks, et cetera. So you're looking at about $200,000. That doesn't include the maintenance of vehicles that would be required for that, the Broyhill, the cleaner, all these different things, the claw truck that you're going to use. It also does not account for, well, I won't even go there. So you've got about $200,000 in salaries. And I was having the conversation with finance today and said, okay, so for vehicles and supplies, I'm just going to be, let's just go on the low side and say that that's only going to be up to $220 a year, which I'm sure would be more because of the maintenance and what have you. So say you're at $220,000, you no longer have an enterprise fund that is generating revenue to pay any of that $220,000. So now that $220,000 is going to have to come out of the general fund, which is your ad valorem tax, which is on the chopping block in Tallahassee. So any change that we make to our sanitation is going to directly affect the bottom line of our general fund, because money will have to come out of general fund to pay for those services. And I understand the desire to look at the numbers and discuss it. What I don't understand is, with no operational deficiencies and we have we're working profitability, why would we want to change the level of service in our city that's going to end up in the long run costing the residents money?
May I respond?
Absolutely.
Okay, the side work, I'm not talking about the side work, so maybe sanitation is not the correct word. Trash pickup, the commercial, the residential, the trash pickup. I don't mind, I don't think anyone minds if the Public Works Department keeps the claw truck to pick up items, keep staff to be able to do cleaning of the containers in Johns Pass Village and throughout. Or I'm talking about what's done with the dumpsters and the side pickup sanitation trucks that could be in our Public Works Department daily. We're trying to develop 10 acres of property at the marina, and this becomes an issue. If it's profitability, if it's profitable, well, it's profitable from the residents, so, and from the commercial. So what do those look like?
So it's profitable in that it sustains itself. An enterprise fund is a self-sustaining fund. And when I called and spoke with other municipalities, the cost saving from the resident would be between $6 and $9 a month is what a resident would save on their sanitation services. So I understand what you're saying. You're trying to talk just trash, but it's not just trash pickup. The trash pickup pays for all the services. So when we charge a resident $38.74, that's not just, they're not just paying for their trash to be picked up and their recycle. They're also paying for the parks to be cleaned, for the beach to be swept. They're paying for all of that. So if you take the trash out and you say, okay, we're going to outsource trash because we're going to save you $9 a month. We'll go on the high side. We're going to save you $9 a month. But because we saved you the $9 a month, we got $220,000 over here.
I'd like to see the figures.
That we've got to, I think it is a waste of staff's time based off of hard factual numbers that are available. I mean, I looked up the contracts with other cities, their public record. I pulled them and looked what they're paying, what they're getting, and I think it's a waste of staff's time.
The other barrier islands have the same challenges. How do they address it? Best practices. None of those, I think, with the exception of maybe Indian Shores, collects their own trash.
I think we discussed this a couple years ago, and at that time, nobody sitting here that was on the commission at that time was in favor of outsourcing our sanitation. I think the greatest thing in saying we want to outsource sanitation is we're telling our sanitation department of 7 people that we just want to get rid of them. And the commitment, it is not an emotional conversation. It is a service-related conversation, and the service that we provide and control by doing our sanitation in-house is above and beyond a $9 a month cost saving to a resident that will cost the city more money, and in the long term will cost the resident more money, and we again lose all of the control of quality of service. Commissioners?
I would miss being able to pick up the phone and call Public Works to talk about an issue I'm having. Hey, I've got this. Can you come pick this up? Yes, put that out. We'll make sure we get that. I love having someone answer the phone. I don't know that I would have that if we outsourced. I'm sorry I didn't do the due diligence regarding the numbers, but if that's true, it makes sense to continue the way we are. In general, I'm in favor of keeping things like this local. Keep it with us because they get to know us. They know our streets, they know our addresses, they know who we are most of the time. And I like the way that feels. I know that's a touchy-feely thing, but I would miss that.
Definitely, I believe, agreeing with the mayor on this one. I do like our community people that go around and help us. And the turnaround is not that bad, is it? Like, we retain those employees, right? So we have the same people every month, every week coming, trusted, and you would know them, you know. If we go a different direction, you don't know who's coming into your neighborhood, who's going to pick up your trash, or how long they've been working. Have they been vetted, or have they had a background check? I personally like the small town feel of having our own team. So that's what I would say.
I like objective ideas. Vice Mayor Kerr, I think, brings ideas to the table that may not necessarily be popular, but it's important to discuss options. I appreciate the way Vice Mayor Kerr thinks. In this particular case, I'm staying with the rest of the team. I think they're, they have a little bit, not a lot, a little bit, but a lot more knowledge with regards to how our operation is. So I'm good with the rest of the team, but I also like to thank Vice Mayor Kerr for his objective ideas.
I do think that there is probably an opportunity for us to save money in the city somewhere. I just don't think it's here, not at the risk of the quality for the residents.
It's not just financial. You saw 60 people here saying that they don't want trash trucks in their neighborhood, so we're going to put them in another neighborhood. We're trying to develop 10 acres of property that people want to actually come to visit. That's the overriding concern. And I don't want my name on it.
All right. We will move on to next on the agenda is Purple Heart recipient, the progress update with the American Legion. Commissioner McGeehan?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm giving everyone a progress update. I have spoken with Anthony Torregrosa. He's a commander with the American Legion. Also, I would like to get the ball rolling with the VFW. This is important, very important to me as a veteran to recognize our community that has served our country. And the Purple Heart is the United States military's oldest military decoration, dating back to 1782. It is awarded to the members of the armed forces of the United States who have been wounded or killed while serving in the line of duty with the U.S. military. I believe that it's important for us to recognize them. So in the near future, we are going to work with the American Legion and the VFW. And I would like to see a plaque here at City Hall. One Purple Heart honoree a year would be fine, and maybe even free parking for the whole year. Something that we can give back to those that served. So thank you very much.
Do we have any public comment? Commissioner McGeehan, have you had any identified residents yet that have received the Purple Heart that live in Madeira?
Not yet, but also, the commander said they are going through elections right now.
Yep.
And so as soon as their newly elected officials are in office, then we're going to progress with that. So it will be a couple of months, but that way everyone will be involved, and also with the VFW as well.
That's awesome. Any comments?
Wonderful, wonderful idea. I would suggest to possibly reach out to Father Bob in Dunedin. As you know, they started the Purple Heart a few years back, and get some ideas and advice from them. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Love the idea. Thank you for following up on that, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Do you have any public comment? Next on the agenda is meeting schedule setting to streamline items on the agenda. I think this got added just because it was part of our discussion in the last meeting.
Yes.
So if the commissioners have any input on that?
My understanding that we're not going to discuss the schedule, the
No,
calendar.
we are not discussing the schedule
And
any
if
longer.
that's what the consensus is, I'm in favor of that.
Do we have any public comment?
Hey,
Yes,
Mayor.
ma'am.
In April, you'll be discussing it as part of your BOC policy handbook. At that time, you can change your schedule, you can do whatever. It's very important to read that. We don't have much comment on it. I guess everything is going well. But I'm going to send it out early and after the election, and everybody take the time to read that and mark up anything that you think would need to be changed, because we have to adopt that within 90 days of the election.
But now, just for clarification, if we're only going to look at it once or twice a year, that doesn't mean that if something comes up 6 months later,
We
we
can change
couldn't
it.
bring
You
it
can
up.
change it any time, and it
Okay.
says in the handbook, and it'll be incorporated. You can change it by resolution, and it incorporates into the next one that you
Thank you.
adopt.
Thank you. Then next on the agenda is the special meeting. City Manager?
All right, Mayor and Commission, speaking with Renee Narlock and her firm, they didn't realize that this meeting had been moved up from next week, so they would like to schedule a meeting to present city manager candidates to the board, and they would like to schedule that the last week of February. So whether you all decide now on a date, or if you want to email myself and Megan Powers some dates, that's fine as well, but completely up to the board.
Did she have a time of day that she was wanting to do the meeting? Or
No, she didn't give me a specific time, just a date, but I would assume if she would guess that our meetings start at 6, or she knows they do, actually. She's been here, so I'm sure we could reach out to her and get a time frame of when she would like to do the meeting, have the meeting.
So the meeting is going to be to present us with the applicants?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was approximately 40 applicants, and some of them she was not familiar with, so the vetting process is taking a little longer, and I'm okay with that, as long as they're all being properly vetted and they're qualified candidates.
Does the commission have any constraints for that week?
I just, so this is not to look at 40 applications?
No,
This is- How many she?
I'm not sure how many she's going to present, but she's going to give the board, or present to the board, a number of qualified candidates, and I believe they're going to be her top choices. And then at that point, if you're happy with those choices, you can say, okay, let's move on to the interviews, which would be the next step. Or
So we're approving her top 5 or 6, or however many there are. I would like to be able to email my availability.
Okay.
And that way, because it just so happens Wednesday at 6 I have to work, but I have other days during the week and times. So I could send my email availability, and y'all can sort it out. Thank you.
So if it's going to be like a workshop style meeting, that will be the only thing on the agenda,
yes.
right? So then maybe we don't have to do it at 6 o'clock?
No,
We could do
not
it
at all.
earlier in the day, which would be more accommodating.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I could do just about any time on Wednesday, and then the other days of the week, if it suited the commission, I'm pretty flexible that week, so
Okay,
we work that out and then,
I'll send the board an email and just everybody respond individually, just to myself with some, and I'll give you the information of a time before I send that email. I'll reach out to her.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
commissioners?
I would like to get the name of all the candidates and not just depend on her. I mean, I know she's very professional, she knows what she's doing, but I think I still would love to see the name of the candidates and see who has applied and maybe, you know, there are times that you're kind of on the border with number 6 and number 7, and so just like to be able to maybe take another look of the rest of the.
I'll ask Renee her thoughts on that, and just again thinking the reason why we hired her is to not have to review 40 applications ourselves. But again, I will reach out to her and see.
I wasn't insinuating to review 40, but just to know who has applied. I
Sure,
think is-
sure,
is
and it'll
nice-
all be
nice
public
to know.
record at some point once she's presented.
Yes, and we're working on getting those now because we have to redact them and everything before we send copies to the commission to start reviewing before the meeting. So we want to make sure nothing gets out without being redacted, certain information.
Do we have any public comment?
I'm sorry, I do. I have one question. Can she give you an idea how long she expects the meeting to be? 2 hours, 4 hours?
Yeah, I can find out, see if.
Because that might determine what time we want
Sure.
to get started.
Sure.
Okay, then next on the agenda is the food truck discussion.
All right, Mayor and Commission, this is regarding Archibald Park, having a food truck there at Snack Shack. I don't want to misspeak. I might have misspoken a little bit earlier. I'm going to defer to Marcy and on exactly the code and the ordinance and the Florida state statute.
So I wasn't fully prepared to dive deep into this, but I do think there's been a kind of a misconception or that we don't allow for food trucks. We do allow for them in the code, but there are certain requirements that we found, I think, over the years when people were requesting, they weren't necessarily meeting those requirements. So over time, it kind of got, a little misconstrued, but we do allow for food trucks. There are like parking requirements, location requirements, there's NFPA fire inspection requirements, and they have to get a BTR here, they have to be road ready, and other things like that. So there is an opportunity to allow for them. So we are compliant with the Florida statute as far as we do provide an option for them. The nuances of all the requirements and where they can be located, that'll be kind of a case-by-case basis as requested, but we do allow for them. So they can be, but it's just, I think, proven to be very difficult over the years for them to get the right location to do that.
That means that we could move forward with putting a food truck on the property? Or we need to,
So by the property?
Archibald.
Archibald.
Okay, oh, sorry. Yeah, I wasn't prepared. So with Archibald Park, I think that we would just have to be careful, like with whatever the deed restrictions are, and as long as we adhere to that, then yes, we'd be willing to, make sure we're properly spaced, the number of spaces we're blocking off and meet that. But yes, Archibald Park would be a location where I would foresee, again, provided no deed restrictions that are associated with Archibald Park, it would be an okay thing. It would be permittable.
Do they need permit?
They would need a BTR, and we would, I could have to double check and see how it's worded as to how we document their presence here. So I'm not sure if it's via permit or just we issue the BTR based on the location and it's specific to where they want to be and their business tax receipts specific to that location. So I'd have to look at the nuances of how we document that.
Do they pay the city for the parking spot or spots that they take up?
That is maybe up to y'all's discretion or the city managers. I don't think it goes that deep in the code as far as reimbursement for use of public spaces or anything like that. So I think that would have to be something we would discuss.
Well, during peak season, that, you can't get a parking spot in there, so it's definitely going to impact revenue. And if you have one truck in there, that means you can have 10 trucks in there. So we don't want it to become all food trucks and not have any revenue. So
Right.
something I'd like to have investigated.
Nope, understood. I think, yeah, there's probably a bigger
So,
discussion.
so if I recall, the conversation that we had that brought this about was due to the fact that we're going to have an extended period of time of the snack shack not being opened, and the park is open, and the beach is open, and spring break is coming, could we put a food truck there, rotate trucks through, have them Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, from 11 to whatever that is, because that's not really our decision. It's more staff level to determine, you know, would they rotate through? Is there 10 different trucks that would want to come and rotate through? What would be the best hours for them to be there? I'm sure the food truck vendor and staff would be much better equipped to determine that part of it. But the idea wasn't to have a lot of food trucks. It was to have a food truck. And if we lost a couple parking spaces, I don't understand that that would be a huge issue in given what the intent was to give something for the community to be able to get something to eat and drink as if the snack shack was there but without it. So it wasn't really about like having lots of them there. It would only have been, per our previous conversation, one at a time. And location was to be determined on what was the safest area for a food truck to be.
Correct.
Marcy, will we be able to police that? So there is only one, because what if another one just wanted to show up? Would we?
That's what we have to figure out, is by what process do we want to initiate this? And that's what I think we have to figure out. And then do we want to put them on a calendar schedule and they agree to it? Those are the nuances that we have to have
Yeah,
more
we'll work through
conversation
that.
on.
Staff will
Right.
begin
I mean,
working through that.
So, yeah.
It seems to me like that is what you would want. You would want a schedule, you'd want a commitment, and you'd rotate. I believe that in our previous conversation, we talked about the recreation department works with food
Yeah.
trucks, and they're well-equipped in knowledge to be able to determine who would go there to make the phone calls and rotate through for the community. I would also think that when you had them there with input from the community, you'd quickly learn who people love and who and if you don't love them, they're not going to be profitable. They won't want to come back. They'd want to get off the rotation. So I'm in favor of letting staff move forward with making all of those decisions at a staff level.
Yep.
I'm not opposed to hearing a plan. I'm bringing back a plan, but I'm trying to figure out how this helps residents. It helps our people that are coming here for the day,
Right.
because that's where they tend to migrate, is anywhere where they can get sufficient parking, Archibald Park, down at South Beach. But I'm trying to figure out how it impacts or benefits the residents. It's only taking away revenue if they're not compensating for the spaces that they're taking away.
We'll discuss all of that. We'll come back with a plan if there needs to be any changes to any ordinances or what have you. But if we can do it at a staff level, make the decision and implement a plan, then that's what we'll do. And the next thing you know, you'll see a food truck at a snack shack.
Also, I think two things. It has to be regulated, right? It has to be checks and balances.
Yes, sir.
You don't want to go to Archibald Park, and not playing the devil's advocate, but what happens if one truck shows up, and then all of a sudden you have 2 or 3 or 4 showing up? Also, I would be in favor of some sort of a charge. I mean, I believe that they're taking away some of the revenue from our parking spots. I think that they should be charged $100 a day. That's not much. And all that can go towards a special fund for the dog park or whatever we want to put it towards. But I don't think they would be balking at like something like that. So that's just my 2 cents worth.
I'm with you.
sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm with you, Commissioner McGeehan. I think food trucks are for profit. They are making a profit. And they will be utilizing public land. We should give them a temporary easement and put a bid out for the highest bid for a certain duration, maybe 6 months, maybe 8 months, or whatever it takes that we may, will be under construction with the Archibald Park store. So I think ownership is extremely important. We are hypothetically the owner of the land. We should write up a lease. They should sign it, and they should agree to pay so much, and that can be determined by a bid, and they can commit themselves for 6 to 8 months.
We're not allowed to do that. And we're not allowed to do that because the Park Service doesn't allow leases of that property. It has to be done by a concession agreement. And if we did any type of agreement, we would need authorization from the Park Service. And that it is months-long process to get that reviewed. So if you did it on a one-off kind of thing, you don't have a lease, you don't have an easement, you don't have any legal documents other than an understanding by way of an adopted resolution or something like that, that will probably fly. You wouldn't necessarily need approval from the National Park Service because it's kind of like a one-off thing. But the more you nail down to someone having some space on that property for a significant period of time, the Park Service is going to comment on that, and they're going to more than likely object. I remember negotiating those concession agreements a couple of times over the years. It is not easy, and they are very interested in what is happening out there.
So we could adopt an ordinance.
Resolution is what I would suggest. Once you determine what you want to do, if you want to get it in writing, you can do it by resolution, or you can just, at a meeting, give direction to the city manager, this is what we'd like, and let him handle it, and go from there.
Okay.
But I would kind of lead you away from something more of a permanent nature like a lease, okay?
Thank you.
I don't have a strong feeling yet about what the trucks would pay, except this is going to probably get laughed out of here, maybe just the cost of the spaces that they occupy for that amount of time, because they are providing a service. Our tourists expect this. This Archibald Park has had the Snack Shack forever, and I think they'd be sort of doing us a favor providing, I mean, they're going to make money, I get it, but they would be providing a service for our tourists who expect to have a concession stand there of some sort. People love food trucks, and I think we always have to strike a balance between residents' needs and our tourist industry, which is a huge part of our revenue. So I think that if we're worried about revenue from our parking, just charge them what it would cost to park in that space for that amount of time, and then whatever details need to be worked out just for them to be here. I'm strongly in favor of having those food trucks here.
Marcy.
So, yeah, Megan did provide me with some information. So she looked into like what municipalities cannot do. So it does look like the state also has some limitations as far as what we're allowed to charge, licensing fees and things like that. So we're very early in the conversation. We will have to figure out what boundaries we have to exist in. And I think once we can set those boundaries and knowing the location where we want to be, we can better further identify the best path forward and making it as least cumbersome as possible. And food trucks live and die by being where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. So I think if we set a schedule, they're going to be there when they're supposed to be there, and we probably won't have too much trouble with that. But we will have to set some guardrails and some clear, boundaries that we are going to work within and figure out how to back into getting them into the location. So that's kind of what I'm seeing so far.
And insurance too, right? Some sort of insurance.
Correct. I think with the state licensing, that comes with the insurance, and then we would check the state licensing, and that would indicate having the appropriate insurance and stuff as well. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So Marcy, when we talked about this originally a month or so ago, at that time there was some conversation about possibly having the food truck planted in front of the Snack Shack on the pavers, where it wouldn't have taken up parking spaces. But it's my understanding that may not be feasible.
Correct.
So I don't disagree with, I don't disagree with anything that's been said particularly, but Attorney Trask, if we allow the food truck to park on the parking lot and they take up 3 parking places, can we charge them parking fees for whatever a car would park in those 3 spaces
Absolutely.
for the day?
Absolutely.
So if the commission says today in this workshop, we agree with that, and we would like to direct the city manager to move forward with making that happen, getting food trucks, whatever, however staff wants to coordinate that, because I don't believe any of us want to coordinate that, or that we are uniquely qualified to have input on it, other than we either like the food or we don't, right? Fair?
Fair.
Can we give direction today to move that forward? And it doesn't have to be at a voting meeting. It can be at this workshop that we all are in agreement to that, or the majority is, so that we can get this moving forward. I had thought we gave that direction when we had this discussion before, to go ahead and move forward with a truck to provide food at Archibald. So when we got into the conversation again, I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of what I thought we did. But just to be clear, because it is empty, and I don't read everything that's on social media, but I think I have a feel that people would enjoy that.
Yeah, we were
Residents.
We were moving forward with that, but then we stumbled across in discussions the long-held belief that food trucks just weren't allowed, and it's my own fault because I didn't do my own due diligence into that. I just took the word that was provided me, and so I do apologize for that. But then I knew about the Florida State statute, because the fire marshal does abide by that, make them abide by that as well. So that's why it was stalled. That's why it was brought back to.
Okay, so does the commission agree with that? Or do you not agree that if we let them move forward, charge whatever the spots would be for the day, and move forward with?
Just need a consensus, I believe.
And if
Yeah, all you need is a consensus. You don't need to take a vote.
So,
to the mayor's point, if you can find a spot that's not taking up revenue producing spots,
agreed.
I'm great with that.
Okay, so we all,
I do have one question. So food trucks are allowed in the city, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we are in conformance with the state regulation.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
would we need to do a resolution to, for the city to have to, so to the comment that came up, you have one that pulls up, what if another one pulls up and parks next to it?
Then you call the sheriff and you
Thank
have the
you.
sheriff remove them because they're operating on private or public property that they're not authorized to operate.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought I knew, so thank you for saying that out loud. Okay,
So
so,
getting back to what you were saying.
Yes.
So they would pay for like
The parking
three
spaces,
spaces that they're taking
they
up,
maybe only take up one
or two.
or two.
Well,
So the
yeah,
point
well-
is, we're going to charge for the parking. Hopefully all of us are agreeing to hand it over to city staff and let them make it happen.
How do you pick one if there are
We
10?
we don't care. The 5 of us, we are not choosing.
Okay.
They are.
Yeah.
City staff is going to take care of who it is, coordinating all that. That's their gift.
Okay.
Makes it easy. for
Make
us.
it so.
Well, yeah,
Maybe not for them.
I definitely would like to see a food truck out there, but I definitely don't want them taking up any parking spaces that can be used for city revenue. That's my opinion.
Well, they're going to pay.
Well, then, if they're gonna pay, then bring them on. I don't care.
Thank you.
You do like the lottery balls and whoever
That's
gets,
exactly what I was thinking in my head. We'll do a live feed for that so everybody knows.
Do we have any public comment?
Chuck Dillon, 529. Excuse me. Once again, I recall the John's Pass people that they were talking about doing a joint venture. Well, why not do something like that? That, I thought originally like $100. And if they don't make that, and then they give a portion of the profit that they make back to the city. And basically, that's going to be going to the Archibald Fund, because anything generated at Archibald has to stay within that fund, I believe. So, and then doing the math, 3 parking spots is $108. I had thought $100. So, but one way or the other, $100, and if they don't come back, if they don't make that, so what? but they are a profitable company or profitable business, so why not get a piece of their cut? And anything over the $100, you get, I don't know, 2 cents, whatever, on whatever it is they're charging. And if they're very profitable, then Archibald becomes profitable. And then you're potentially looking at the idea of maybe 2. And basically you're losing 3 spots is $100. If you're going to be charging them for the 8 hours, 3 spots and that. But once again, as the mayor said, I think it's a great idea. Put the ball in the staff's hand. They know what they're doing, and it's just going to increase the Archibald Fund. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comment? Next on the agenda is City Attorney, Special Magistrate lien at 703 Sunset Cove, Madeira Beach, case number 24-233. City Attorney?
Okay, you remember we were talking about this at the last workshop meeting, and Mr. Baker and his attorney were going to be providing additional information that would be helpful to you. I haven't received any of that information. I know it's been a very short period of time, so I don't really have any input on this other than the fact that I did receive an email yesterday from the attorney, Mr. Gilman, asking, hey, are we on the agenda for tomorrow or not? So I don't think that they actually knew they were going to be placed on the agenda. So it may be a little bit premature. I see Mr. Baker standing at the podium. He may have something to add, but that's kind of where I'm at. But the bottom line is that this is an outstanding special magistrate lien. The value of the lien is about a little over $8,800. City staff is recommending reducing the fine no less than $2,000 to no less than $2,000 as long as it's paid within 30 days. And if it's not paid within 30 days, have it revert back to the original dollar amount.
So we did get some correspondence on this. I pulled up,
How did you receive that?
So Mr. Gilman sent a copy of the contract to myself and Marcy and copied Kent Richard Baker, Samantha Sanchez, and Brian Unks, the attorney. And what he sent was, and I did not realize that it wasn't the whole commission that got it, but what he sent was a copy of the contract that Mr. Baker signed. And in the contract, it has a section that says that they would provide all required permits. So it says your new equipment includes, so it's got the proposal contract, has the address, checks off all the different things that he was purchasing, and it checks off that his new equipment includes all labor, sales tax, all required permits, Matic seal, plenums, I said that wrong, disposal and removal of the old system, hurricane anchors, clean work areas, protect floors in work area, vacuum refrigerant lines, clean drain lines, charge to manufacturer specification, and water overflow protection. The only thing that I particularly cared about was that this contractor, this heating and cooling contractor, sold this gentleman a air conditioner. And I believe that the resident purchased the air conditioner, signed a contract, and the contractor stated that he would pull all the required permits. I am of the opinion, and I was not of the opinion of reducing it to $2,000, even though that's what staff recommended. However, I did say that I wanted to see the contract. And having seen the contract that says that the contractor stated he would pull all permits, I think the contractor should be reported to the state. And I would tend to agree now with staff's recommendation of the $2,000 because I feel that the resident did not act in bad faith and that the contractor did, because the fact of the matter is the contractor stated he would pull a permit, he put in the air conditioner, only attempted to pull the permit after he got caught. And so I don't believe that the resident is responsible for a deception from a contractor. But I do think the contractor should be reported to the state. That's my opinion.
My support of this was based exactly on that, and based on the fact that he was misinformed, I'm in favor of that as well.
I'm in favor as well, but I wanted to add one more thought. When this first came in front of the board, and we compared it to a previous 50% reduction, that was by physically placing a kitchen in the backyard. And at the time, it was not allowed. This violation was a clerical violation. He didn't do anything wrong. If he would have pulled the permit, it would never have been an issue. It was a clerical issue. It was stated, and I can only assume that it's correct or true, that you tried to pull an after-the-fact permit, but were rejected by the city because they wouldn't allow it. I have an issue with that. I have a problem with that. Not your problem. I have a problem that you were, if that's true, I don't know how that could have happened. And then get in front of the special magistrate. So anyway, the 2,000, that was probably close to the 5 times. I have no idea, regardless, but I agree. But there is a difference. That's the only thing I wanted to point out.
Oh, 100%. This is if someone comes back to us and says, well, you reduced his fine by whatever the percentage is from the 8,000 to the 2,000, you should do that for me. Totally different. You're 100% right. There's no comparison.
He didn't do any.
Well, it's not so much clerical. He didn't do anything. He hired a contractor.
Right,
the contractor was deceptive.
I'm just saying, if his buddy would have put it in and wasn't going to pull a permit and he knew about it or whatever, okay, shame on him, and 5 times.
Yep.
But that's why my first initial was, why did they pull it out? They couldn't get a permit after the fact and pay all the fines and go in front of the special magistrate. So, but regardless.
Marcy, did you want to add to this?
So I did want to provide some clarity around the permitting process. So post-storm, what we were finding is people, they're doing their baseboards, their drywall, their flooring, they're doing all that without a permit. The trades that typically trigger a requirement and know they need a permit are your roofing contractors, your HVAC contractors. Even the electrical and plumbing was kind of hit or miss. So what was happening is we were getting permits for trades, but we had no corresponding interior remodel permit. So we know their HVAC has been damaged, they have to replace that. So what we were doing is when we were getting a trade permit, we were reaching back out saying, this will need to accompany, we need to see an interior remodel permit with that. In this gentleman's particular case, had we had communication that, here's my plan, I need this permit, and then I'm going to sell the property, we would schedule a courtesy inspection, confirm that no interior remodel work had been performed, and at that point in time, we would go ahead and issue the HVAC, understanding that this gentleman hadn't done any interior work and wasn't going to. But this was one of our stop gaps to help catch that, and that would be one of the expectations that we would also get during an audit is, how come you issued an HVAC permit, but you have no interior remodel permit? That's kind of like a little bit of a red flag. So that was the checks and balances for us, and we're still kind of dealing with it today where we're having that issue. So that's why those things were happening. We were communicating that you need an interior remodel permit. This is how we're doing checks and balances, and typically it just takes a conversation to get past that one, but it was a stopgap for us, and it's actually worked pretty well. So, yeah.
I understand that. I don't want to get into debate of all that, but I'm just saying that, okay, it was after the fact. Here you go. We have a red flag in the system on your property. And the way I understand, in another 6 months, a year, all those properties that were flooded, that we know were flooded, are going to get a knock on the door by somebody. And I don't know where that's all. So they already have red flags, but I'm just supporting the 2,000.
I agree with the staff and the board and the mayor. So, yes.
I'm on board as well.
Okay, so we'll put this on the next regular commission meeting for approval for a fine reduction down to $2,000, so long as it's paid within 30 days.
Sounds good.
So
Okay?
permitting, what would happen to the permitting, the interior remodeling? How would you address that?
We don't care.
know
That's
that's
not what
another-
we're discussing. That's not part of
Yeah.
the discussion. That's for city staff to work through.
Yeah, okay.
Do we have any public comment? Then thank you very much for coming. Next on the agenda is to respond to public comments, and the first public comment was from Stephanie Berry on the Johns Pass. And Commissioner Taglerini, would you like to speak to that, to the commission at all?
Sorry. It took me a little bit to understand. I asked the question at the meeting, well, how do we make profit at these events? And it turns out that if we don't have to provide certain things, we actually save money. And this money that we save would be considered revenue, would be put into a fund, but we have to have a line item on our budget in order to dedicate it to supporting events and projects at Johns Pass Village. Anything above break even placed into this designated fund dedicated to supporting these events. That's my understanding of it. Does that sound?
So the ask is, Commissioner Taglerini is serving as a representative for the city down at the Johns Pass Merchants meeting. And the Johns Pass Merchants are trying to be partners with the city. And their ask is, they want to partner with us. They want to help us get sponsorship. So like, we do the seafood festival. We do not make any money. We lose money some years. And the merchants all have connections, whether it's to alcohol or beer or music or different things like that. And what they're proposing is, we will help make these events in Johns Pass profitable, but we want you to put some of that money back into Johns Pass via marketing, signage, or what have you. So they're not asking the city for additional funds from what we already do down there. They're asking if they help champion the events and make them more profitable by bringing in the sponsors so that there's more profit. Will we dedicate a percentage of that money to a line item in our budget to be spent specifically, like they've been working, quote unquote, with Megan on new signage, directory signage. So the idea is that would help to fund it. Or other things. It could be whatever, marketing for the.
Jay has a great spreadsheet that shows exactly where we spend money and where we can save money with these things. And I think that once we bring this up if we bring this up at a budget meeting, Jay would need to be here to explain where that revenue comes from and where we could put it and what we could spend it on in the future. I thought it was a good idea. It seemed like a collaboration, which I'm very much in favor of the merchants collaborating with the city, working together in tandem.
They want to put in the effort and the work to make the events profitable, but they want to see something back on it. To me, they want a return on their investment, which I think if it's legal for us to do, to say, and it's not a per event, it has to be per year of the events that are held in Johns Pass, because when we hold a Village Friday, we don't make any money on a Village Friday. We spend money because there are 0 sponsors for that event. We used to have sponsorship, but we no longer get any sponsorship for that event. So their propose is that if they can get sponsorships for the events that are held in the past, work with the city through the committee, then so you would take all, in my mind, the way it would work is you would take all the events and you would look at the cost and you would look at the profit, and then the city would decide, okay, we're going to give this much percentage of the profit to the fund that would do marketing for Johns Pass or would do the directory for Johns Pass or whatever. Is that legal for the city to do?
There's no public purpose involved in providing a benefit like that to these commercial entities, these businesses. If you were going to take the money and set it aside and use it, for example, power washing sidewalks or painting or parking lot replacement or repairs, then obviously that would be something that would be very much acceptable. I
Okay.
would stay the heck away from raising money and having it give the money to John's past businesses. There's no public
No,
purpose.
no, I'm not saying give the money to John's past businesses. I'm not saying that. I'm trying to make that clear. I'm saying you have a line item that is from the profit of the events that we would spend within John's Pass. It could be pressure washing. It could be directory signage. It could be that. So that's what I wanted out of this was clarification of what would be legal for the city to do and not.
Right, so I think that you and I are on the same page
Okay.
with that, but an example I would not suggest is that you have $500 in marketing and you pay for a huge banner that promotes one of the restaurants down there. That is not for a public purpose, that's for a business purpose.
What if the sign was for the event, was to support the event, not a specific?
No, that is for a city event, and so you can purchase any banners that you want.
Like
And
a
if
Village
you want
Friday.
to put on there that there is a sponsor and it's all the businesses, then that's fine too. But I'm just saying, don't use the money so it's beneficial to only one business or
Right,
another
right.
business.
Yeah, so I don't think that was even their goal. I think their goal was to, for the entire John's Pass. So if you did a promotional advertisement, an ad, that ad wouldn't be for Scully's or for Pirates Pub or for Hubbard's. It would be for John's Pass.
So again, that's not a public purpose. That is marketing for all of the businesses versus one business. So I would stay away from that. There's no public purpose there. There's only business purposes. So now if you had a directory, for example, in your parking lot, an arrow pointing to the ice cream shop this way and the pizza place that way, that's a directory. That is obviously something that you would want
Okay.
and you could pay for, but I would stay away from anything that's promoting the businesses.
It sounds like maybe at the next meeting, if we could ask one of the members, provide for us a list of things you think that the money from this line item, you would ideally like it to be spent on, and then let's bring this back and see with Attorney Trask, what of this makes sense and what is not possible. That way we could make sure that.
That's
Okay.
a great idea.
Yeah, so you do that.
I'll do that, yeah.
So then for our, chief, for our next workshop, could we have a line item to discuss this and see what Commissioner Taglerini brings back?
Yeah, absolutely.
Next meeting's not till,
March 4th.
our John's Pass Village meeting.
Oh,
I'm not sure.
It's on a Tuesday. Is it the first Tuesday?
yeah, it's,
We're
It's
gonna
oh,
have
it's
to.
the 3rd, March 3rd.
Oh, that'll work.
I don't know if I can, maybe I can meet with Dylan, Captain Hubbard, and see if I can get that ball rolling without having a meeting,
okay,
okay?
I'm sure you could.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, then we can talk clarity.
Yeah,
with-
we're gonna
make
have
sure
to
whatever we're
discuss
doing
this
is
because
legal.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to make sure that
because
whatever we do
if-
is right.
If we're adding a line item in the budget and they want to pressure wash the sidewalks and Director Wetford has already got it in the budget to do that and a time frame to do that, and who's going to, we really need to deep dive this.
That is why we do these discussions at the end of the meeting, so that we
Yeah.
can have deeper discussions for more clarity and understanding. Yeah.
I'm going to contact Captain Hubbard tomorrow, find out, have a conversation. What items what sort of things were you thinking that this line item would fund?
Right.
What would we use it for?
I think that's a great idea.
I was just going to add in that I know that there was a bit of confusion because I had a conversation with Stephanie
Yeah.
earlier. So I want to make it very clear that we do have in the general fund, there is a John's Pass. And
Yes.
within that is a maintenance grounds and parks, which covers John's Pass Village and all of the right-of-way. So I just want to make that very clear.
Say that again, what is it called?
it's called maintenance, grounds, and parks. And
Yes.
then there is, within that same budget, there is another line item for maintenance of John's Pass Park. And that covers all of the grounds, the pavers. I do have the pavers pressure washed every quarter. And that is our pavers. Not all of the pavers down there, even though they match, are the city's pavers.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the other public comment that we got was, Megan, you could stay, on Kitty Stewart Park and clarifying the use of the property and public, oh, I wrote that down. So I wanted to just speak out loud. There has been quite a bit on social media about Kitty Stewart Park. And we've talked about Kitty Stewart Park many, many times. And for the record, and Megan, you correct me if I'm wrong, the agreement for the restaurant that is currently located adjacent to Kitty Stewart Park was done years before the current restaurant owner purchased that property and that agreement. Isn't that correct?
So the answer is yes, that's correct. It was negotiated, and that development agreement was either assigned or it was amended to add the new owner. But it was negotiated a number of years ago.
So what I wanted to point out is we are actively, and we've spoke about it many times up here, we are actively working to restore Kitty Stewart Park. Prior to the renovation of the park, there were 5 parking places.
Give me just-
And there are now, it's very revenue
I
generating for
want
the
to say
city.
it's 17.
17
or
parking
around
spaces
that number.
that the city has. And there's been conversation within the community that it is not a park. And I would beg to differ. It is a park. It has parking places. It has access to the beach. The bathroom will be restored. It is a park very similar to the county park. The county park is a park. It has parking and bathrooms. It is a park. That is all that is there, and it is a park. And we just to reiterate for conversation, the city has worked with the adjacent property owner to beautify the park when we build it back from the storm. So there will be additional foliage of whatever kind, I don't know at this time, but there will be plantings. There will be a bathroom that will not be built for caddies. It will be built for the community because it is the community that will access the beach and use that restroom. So there'll be a very nice elevated restroom that the community can use, the community needs. And I mean, city staff has worked long and hard hours on getting that back. It was destroyed during the storm, and there were a lot of things going on, and there were a lot of moving pieces to try to determine whether or not and how we could put a bathroom back. And they came up with a solution that appears presumably will survive a storm. If we had a storm, it's going to be hurricane rated, it's going to be elevated, all of the things. So if the patients could be found within the community when the park is done, and the reason I wanted you, Megan, is to give the timeline. You had given us the timeline previously on the park. If you could give it again, just for the record.
Yes, we have the approval for the bathroom. I'm still waiting for the contractor to fill out the vendor form to send the PO. But we should have the site plan completed. It was supposed to be done this week, but it's not done yet. And then it will be out to bid within a week of me receiving that. The timeline for that is probably, I can try to get it done in 3 months, but that's going to be really hard. So I'm gonna give myself 4 months to have a contract in place and discussions before you all for the pricing. Because when we bid this out, we are bidding this out as the seawall. We are bidding this out as all the sidewalk replacements, the paver driveway, the sanitary line was spared, but the water line was completely ripped out. We do have to increase the water meter. We found that out. So we are working with the county to increase that. Not a big deal. We can get that done in a time frame, but I would say before we have shovels in the ground, we're looking at about 4.5 months. But once we get the contract in place, the seawall will go in, and then they'll start building the parking lot back, which shouldn't take more than 90 days at most.
So July, August.
Yes, realistically.
Yeah.
Was there a discussion recently about trying to get a picnic table put back in, or maybe a covered?
It was asked if we
covered-
could put a picnic table back in there whenever the park is remodeled, and I think we can probably make that happen.
Yeah, but
But as far as having a pavilion in there, that was not part of the
No.
discussion with you all. We traded, when the park was
Bathroom.
remodeled, we traded the pavilion for a bathroom, basically, essentially. And the only difference from the park I'm not sure if Tom can give me the screen so I can show you all, just to remind everyone what
Yeah.
Tom and Kitty Stewart Park looked like.
no, I
prior
get it.
to. So the only difference is we increased parking. Yes, there is a drive-through for caddies, but that was part of the agreement. And we swapped out a pavilion for a restroom.
And there was talk of putting some palm trees in. And
We are
some-
absolutely going to put landscaping in,
Yeah.
yes. So,
and
the-
that'll soften it up, and I think that'll make a big difference.
yes, and the property that is to the south, the Beach Flower, is also going to put in a landscape buffer on their side. So they're going to have different palm trees. I can't remember what that looks like, but we will have landscaping in the front. We're going to have a 4-foot barrier on our side as well that we can put in different palm trees. I can look at putting palm trees on the beach like we have at Archibald. We have lots of different ideas and opportunities.
I think that's probably the main pushback, is just softening it up and getting some landscaping in and soften it up, yeah.
Absolutely. The park before Helene took it, I had the landscaping beautiful, and then Helene took it out.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, just like to add that people that typically would enjoy this park would want to walk to the beach. So I wouldn't think that somebody would want to just go to this park and just sit there under a tree and forget the beach. So, so this park basically creates the opportunity and the access
Correct.
to the beach. Now, if we want to and need to and should, put a bench out there, maybe a picnic table, then, if that satisfied some of the neighbors, I think that's fine in my opinion. But I wouldn't want to go to this park and just sit there and under a tree and just have a sandwich. I would want to go and enjoy the beach.
Okay. So that is the last thing on our agenda. It is 6:17 and we are adjourned.
Thank you.